I'm attempting to grow some of my own calendula and my own peppermint. It's my first time trying these out. And there's my calendula. I have one flower there so far. And this is my peppermint. I've already made calendula oil here, but that took about 6 weeks. So what I'm going to do is take the calendula oil, or some of the calendula oil that I've already made, and try to make it even stronger by adding some of the calendula oil to a separate bottle with additional calendula. All right, that's enough. There, that looks good. Now, I just want to push everything down. I want to make sure that we get, if there's any air bubbles or anything, we want to let those escape. And we also want to make sure that everything is nice and wet. We want to put the cap on nice and tight. Give that a nice shake. Okay. This is going to be awesome if these all turn out. Okay. Now, you know the routine. It's going into the window. Okay, in my jar, I have my calendula oil that's been infusing in calendula oil that I'd made previously. So this is going to give me double the strength. So what we need to do here is strain this, and then what we're going to do is make a salve with some of it. So what I want to do is put a strainer right here, and then we want to take a coffee filter and put that over the strainer to help catch some of the herbs. We don't want any of the herbs to wind up in the next bottle. But we are going to strain it at least twice. Now I've had this infusing for about 19 days. And the first infusion was for 6 weeks. So I'm going to slowly pour my oil We're going to slowly drain our oil through the filter into the bottle, and then we'll throw this filter out and redo it one more time. Using calendula oil to make a healing salve is very good for the skin. It helps heal cuts and wounds, and I'll give you a YouTube website with a person that can describe the calendula oil and its benefits much better than I can. So we're just going to do this, and then when it's all strained, after the first straining, I will show you how it looks, and then we'll do this again. I just have to take our time to let it strain properly, so we get rid of all the dirt and all the herb and all the stuff inside our bottle. When I done the original calendula infusion, I done that in a virgin olive oil. So then with this calendula infusion, I used that oil to make this calendula infusion. What it does is it's really it doubles the strength of the calendula to help heal wounds and whatnot even quicker. You don't have to do this the second time, but you could if you chose to make it a little stronger. You could try the heat infusion for doing these infused oils, but I tried it 3 times now, and 3 times I failed, so I'm just going to stick to the cold infusion. It takes longer, but they seem to be working better for me. I'm doing other infusions as well, such as chamomile infusion, that's in an avocado oil. I'm also doing a calendula chamomile, and that one's being done in an avocado oil, I believe. And I am doing a lavender vanilla coconut infusion oil. And these different infused oils can be used, like I said, for salves, or you can add them to a cream for your evening cream or day cream or whatever. And if maybe you're making your own creams, you can use them in homemade soaps. You can use them for lip balms. There's many uses you can use these oils for. Okay, so what I've begun doing was trying to just push it down a little bit, push the oil through this way, and now I'm going to add the rest of the oil and the calendula. And you can actually use like a muslin cloth or cheesecloth and do it that way. You can squeeze it out gently. It's good if you have a strainer underneath, like what I have here, to help catch any of the herbs from going right through. But because you might still get some small little pieces, that's the reason you have to do it a second time. Sometimes you have to do it 3 times. You could do it 3 times if you want to be on the safe side. But once you see your oil is all nice and clean, then you're ready to start your next project using the calendula oil. Now, I'm just going to pour this into my hand. There. I'm just going to go dump this into my green can, and I'll be right back. I'm going to sterilize the bottle. I take a clean cloth and just rub them down. Just dry them out. You can also use boiling water to sterilize your utensils and bottles and whatever else you're going to be using for these types of projects. But you do want everything sterilized, less chance of contamination. Okay, so that's done. Do is, again, we put the bottle in there. We want the strainer in here. I'm just using the cup to balance the handle. Okay, we will take a coffee filter, just regular old coffee filters, dollar store stuff. Okay. We only need one. Here's our calendula oil that we have already squeezed all the herbs out of. Now we're just making sure that we've got everything. You want your oil to be as clean, you want your oil to be as clean as possible. Because if you leave specks of the calendula and dirt, that's just going to make your oils go bad quicker. So we're just going to try and avoid that. I just want to place this on here. Pour our calendula oil into a smaller bottle, which I hope is going to be big enough. Eek. Okay. Now, that's all I wanted to make sure of was right here. Just make sure that there's nothing left in there. We got all the calendula herb out of our oil. And so what we have left is just pure calendula oil. Now, I'd like to weigh this bottle to see how much oil we wound up with. We wound up with 220.5 grams. I will be next making a healing salve using our calendula oil. So that is how you make an infused oil. You'll want to put a label on this with the date and what's in here. And this oil is good for about a year. So after 6 months or so, you want to start giving it a little smell to make sure it still smells like it does right now. If it starts to smell funky at all or funny or icky, just throw it out, make some new stuff. That's the best thing to do. Hi, I'm Donna. Today I want to try to make a healing salve. So let's get started. Okay, so our healing salve is going to require about a half a teaspoon of lavender essential oil, which is about 2 drops per quarter ounce. So for each quarter ounce, you would add about 2 drops of lavender oil. So what I'm going to do here in my measuring cup is just go ahead and add the half teaspoon now. And then when the wax is all melted and the oil is warmed, we can just add it right to this cup here. That's about 32 drops. Now I want to weigh out my wax. Now, as always, I will be putting the ingredients and the instructions in the description box below the YouTube video. So we're looking for a half an ounce. We're looking for a half an ounce of beeswax. Okay. So that's our wax, which I can just pour right into. I'll be using a Pyrex measuring cup to melt everything. And I like to use my silicone cups for my wax when I can, because it doesn't stick to the silicone, so it's easy to transfer to the melting pot or whatever we're using. Okay, I'm going to turn this down now. We just want it boiling, but we don't want it boiling too hard. We don't want to melt everything too quickly, because it'll stick to your whatever you're using for melting in, and it can burn, and we don't want it to burn. So here's what dried calendula looks like. I didn't bother opening this bag yet, but here it is right here. See, it's all dried flower. Or just dried flower, dried calendula flower. Calendula is a good oil to use for a healing salve because it really helps heal wounds and bruises and cuts and open cracked skin, things like that. So it's a good oil to use. And this is just a basic salve today. Now you may be wondering why I'm using a syringe. It's because I don't want to make a big mess trying to pour, because our calendula is filled right to the rim. We want 4 ounces of calendula oil in our bottle. All right, we got it down to 4.02 of an ounce. So that's pretty darn good. Okay. So now what we want to do is put it on the stove. And so I want to put my wax on here first. Now I like to use the measuring cup because I have the handle on the outside of the pot and makes it easier for taking out of the pot after. So we'll let that melt, and then we'll be adding our room temperature calendula oil. Now what'll happen when I pour this into here is, because it's at room temperature, when you pour that into the melted wax, the wax solidifies a little bit, and so you just have to leave it on the burner for an extra minute or two until it all remelts. So don't be shocked to see it solidify like that. Now you have to take your time and let the wax melt, as I've said. So you have to have patience. It takes a few minutes. You should really not walk off or leave your wax unattended while melting it. You don't want it to catch fire or anything like that. It's all melting nicely. Okay, so now we're going to add our calendula oil. And you see how it all solidified right away because it was at room temperature. And that's to be expected with whatever room temperature oil you're using. And so we just stir it up. And it'll melt pretty quickly. See? It's getting there. You want it to be completely melted before removing it from the double boiler. There. See how it's all melted now? Just a few little grains left. We'll be ready to go in a moment. Now I'm going to take our hot wax and the spoon that I was using and pour it into this measuring cup. Now you might be wondering why I'm switching measuring cups. It's because it's easier for me to pour out of a smaller measuring cup. That's the only reason. If you don't have a problem pouring from a larger cup, then you don't need to. So now that everything is nicely stirred, you need to work kind of fast because it does start to solidify, harden quite quickly. Okay, so I think we're good to go. And you want to be careful because this is hot. So we just take our time and just fill your containers. Now I probably have more containers than I need, and that's okay. I'd rather have more ready than not enough. Oops, oops, oops. Now please remember, I am visually impaired, so I do have accidents. Oh, that one didn't quite fill. If I didn't spill some on the counter, that would have been just perfect. But look how quickly that's hardening. You see that? That's how quickly it hardens. Now, because we're using wax, we don't want to rinse this right into our sink because we're going to wind up with a clogged sink. So what we do with this stuff and whatever mess we made is we want to take a paper towel and wipe everything before we put it into our sink for washing. Get as much of the wax off as we can. Our salves will sit there until they've hardened. You know, that's ready for the sink. Now, you notice that I was putting my spoon into this bowl of oil while the wax was melting. Well, that's because I find that wax kind of wants to stick to everything. And so I found by dipping it in the oil first before stirring it in the wax helped not to have so much wax sticking. Now look at the wax I'm pulling out of there. It's oiled. So I'm going to go make some labels and I'll be back in a little bit to show you how the salves have all hardened. Okay, so these have been sitting probably close to an hour and they're perfect. Stuck to the paper, but I can clean that off. So now what we want to do is put our caps on. These will make very nice gifts if you know somebody with dry skin. People outdoors at work can always get cuts or bruises and whatnot. Now I'm just going to remove this wax from there. I'll be able to clean the outsides of these with no problem. find once I have the caps on, you can spray them with your rubbing alcohol, and it seems to get all the wax off and any greasy fill. Throw one in your kids' backpack, so while they're at school, if they fall and injure themselves, they can clean their wound up and then put some salve on it right away. Take them with you when you're going camping. I made a label for the top and a label to go around the side telling them exactly what ingredients are in there. We'll be doing more of these, experimenting with different, like I said, chamomile and argan oil and sunflower and different things, and we'll give them all a try. So until then, thanks for watching.